Dana, we have lots to talk about tonight. Of course, we've been talking about Lee. And meantime, there are showers moving through the state tonight too, right?
Absolutely. So we've got Lee to talk about for later this week, but the showers moving through right now don't have anything to do with Lee at all. They are from a cold front that's been moving through today, giving us on and off showers throughout the day. Not much in terms of any thunderstorm activity, but we have seen a couple pockets of heavy rain moving through, especially in the foothills today and on already saturated soil that can cause some localized flooding in spots. Overall tonight, though, looking at about an average night. Temperatures a little bit above average for this time of year, but overall a bit of a cooler night than we've had over the past couple of nights, and that's something that we'll see continuing this week, kind of a more average nights on tap in terms of temperature. Now that cold front moving through today gave us those showers, then we're going to have high pressure move in behind it. So we're going to have a pretty good Thursday and Friday. And this high pressure system also gives us a pretty good idea of where exactly Hurricane Lee is going to move northward, because as this cold front begins to fall apart, this can kind of create a steering flow, which allows us to see where Hurricane Lee is going. You can see that it comes in here right around midday on Saturday, but we're going to see some of the impacts from Lee ahead of that. Now, before we get talking about Lee, the cold front is going to continue to move through over Maine over the next couple of hours, and most of us will be dried out with the exception of down East Maine as we get into just before sunrise tomorrow morning. And then high pressure rolls in and we get a pretty nice Thursday. And then Friday starts out all right, but see these kind of high looking clouds in this kind of banding formation? These are actually high clouds that are going to be coming in ahead of Hurricane Lee. And then you can see here the bands of rain start to come in a little bit later, and we'll be seeing these just after midnight very early on Saturday morning. So currently Hurricane Lee moving north at 9 miles per hour. And if you notice, it started to stretch out from north to south, which is actually an indication that it is weakening as it heads into colder water. So it's not as tight of a hurricane as we've seen over the past couple of days. And we're expecting at this point, as it makes its way towards Maine, down East Maine is going to see the most impacts, but it does expand beyond this kind of cone shape we have here. And at this point, we're expecting kind of tropical storm-like conditions to come towards us. Now, that might sound scary, but at this point here, we're looking at high wind gusts in between 40 and 60 miles per hour, which is closer to tropical storm conditions than hurricane conditions. But something that we are looking at here is high surf. Just off the coast could see waves between 15 and 20 feet. Now, the National Weather Service has issued a hurricane watch for down East Maine, and then just inland we have a tropical storm watch, which does expand towards the southern coast. But the impacts of this system, I think, are most closely related to a strong nor'easter. So we're looking at high surf, rip currents, and beach erosion as definite impacts, and then we are going to see a lot of rain and wind. Dependent on storm location, the strongest impacts will be the farther east you are. And again, they're similar to a strong nor'easter where power outages and flooding are the main concerns, especially because we still have a lot of leaves on the trees. Though right now, seas 2 to 6 feet and the water at 65 degrees. So 7-day forecast, things get interesting as we get into the weekend. Thursday and Friday, the nicer days of the week. So we're expecting Hurricane Lee's impacts to come in on Saturday, and then things will clear out pretty well as we get into the beginning of next week. So Zach, like I said, in terms of preparation for a storm like this, similar to a nor'easter, which Mainers are pretty accustomed to. So it's something that you should prepare for, but not a reason to panic.
Yeah, get the bread, the milk, the generator going. You know the drill. Thanks, Dana.
Of course.